Hello and welcome back to First Place TV. My name is Tumelo Makgakga. I'm a qualified chartered accountant, a registered tax practitioner, and a registered auditor. Today I want to address the question, under what circumstances do I qualify to get a tax refund from SARS? I've got this question so many times, so I thought let me put together a video and address some of the key points or some of the things that I've been asked. Stay tuned. Tax refunds. When you get a tax refund, it's so nice. And it almost always comes when you're not expecting it. So everyone loves a tax refund. Let's put it out there. Everyone loves a tax refund because it's money that comes almost in a time where you're not expecting it. But I think it's important to understand how does it even come about for you to even get a tax refund. What needs to happen for you to end up in a position of a refund is that you need to have overpaid tax. That's just to put it simply. You need to have overpaid tax first, and then eventually SARS will then have to pay you back a part of the tax that you have overpaid. That's to put it simply. So if you're getting a refund, that is your own money. It's money that you've paid SARS, but you overpaid what you were supposed to pay. Now they're just returning your own money. So it's not money that's coming from the sky. It's money that's coming from you. Now, if you are employed, for example, here in South Africa, the tax year starts from the 1st of March all the way to the 28th of February. That is what we call a year of assessment for tax purposes. And then around July, you will have what is called a tax season open. In South Africa, you'll have that tax season open up to say, guys, your tax year ended in February. Now it's time for you guys to file your taxes, file your tax returns. And the deadline for that is around about October, November. Now, it is during that time that you begin to find out whether or not you overpaid your tax or whether you underpaid your tax, because sometimes it's possible that you can underpay your taxes and you end up owing SARS. Now, what I want to address is if you are employed, chances are your employer is withholding taxes every single month. Right now, you might be asking yourself, why would my employer withhold more than they need to? In such a case that I even have to end up getting a tax refund from SARS. Why would they withhold more than they have to? Now, in most instances, in most cases that I've come across, if you start your employment in the middle of the tax year, so like I said, the tax year starts from March and it ends in February, but if you start your employment somewhere in the middle, not necessarily in the beginning of March, if you start your employment somewhere in the middle, your tax bracket or the tax that you pay will be calculated depending on your salary, how much you are earning, and your employer will withhold according to your tax, to the right tax bracket. But if you only worked for 3 months of the tax year, eventually when we look at the full tax year as a 12-month period from March to February, you only have 3 months that you've worked. You didn't work 12 months, but your employer withheld taxes as if you would have worked a 12-month period, and they use the tax tables that are approved for that tax year. Now, what will happen is SARS will look at, during this tax year, you only receive pay for 3 months, which means that your total earnings for the year actually did not fall into the bracket that your employer used to calculate your taxes. It actually fell to a lower bracket because maybe for the 3 months or 4 months or whatever period that was the actual earnings during the tax year. Now, when SARS look at that picture, only the 3 months, they then say, actually, you are supposed to fall on a lower tax bracket. The tax that you paid and declared was based on a higher bracket because your employer just said, okay, you earn X, you fall into that bracket. Now we're going to withhold this certain amount of taxes. But when we look at the full tax year as a whole, SARS then says, no, the total earnings for this actually falls under this bracket. They classify it then according to the right bracket, and when they look at the taxes that they receive from the employer, it comes out as more, or you would have now overpaid taxes in this regard. Now then they can say, okay, we can then give you back the portion that has been overpaid. But to put it simply, especially in a case of a person who's employed who doesn't necessarily have control over how much tax is withheld, I think that's how I can summarize it. Other instances where you can get a refund is if you incurred qualifying expenses during the period and you've got your invoices or whatever evidence that you can use. Now, when it's time to file your taxes, you then claim those expenses. Now, when SARS reviews all of that, they can say, yes, these are qualifying expenses. Maybe your medical aid didn't cover some expenses during the tax year for whatever reason. You can go and submit those those claims with SARS and try and get, refunded for those, because if you belong into a medical aid, you also qualify for medical aid tax credits. So these are some of the instances that I've come across, or that I normally, that are common, which would result in a person getting a refund. But the fundamental principle is tax refunds don't just come from nowhere. It's money that is coming from you, firstly, and SARS is just paying you back the portion which you overpaid during the tax year. And like I said, there are instances where you have incurred expenses, qualifying expenses during the year, maybe home office expenses, which you can claim, medical expenses that are qualifying, and any other expenses that could be allowed as a deduction. Now, you will be allowed to claim those during the filing period or the filing season. When the filing season opens, you'll be able to claim those expenses, and then SARS will then refund you that money. So those are the instances that you might end up getting a tax refund. A tax refund is not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed a tax refund, and it's always important to understand instances or scenarios that might result in you getting a tax refund. But I've had instances where people are wanting refunds every year, but they don't really understand the where does the refund come from. Ladies and gents, as you know, here at First Place, we are accountants, registered tax practitioners, and registered auditors. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if there's any questions or any assistance that you guys need as we approach the tax season. Thank you so much.